The Southside Hitmen are off to their worst start in franchise history, and the clown shows sure continued over the weekend. The Cubs get back on track. Scottie Scheffler wins his second Masters in golf. The Chicago Bulls, thank goodness the regular season is over, but their season still continues. Go figure that. That and a whole lot more as a special edition of Second City Sports. The Monday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Byrne. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are at War Media Podcast. That is WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions from the world of sports, during our 2-hour extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll give Lakina full powers to give your fools to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago, not now, but right now, live in the 11 color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just download that. If you already have that Roku television, just tap on this sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you do not have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
We will provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports as we talk. We'll talk, Scottie Scheffler winning the Masters for the second time in 3 years. A veteran broadcaster says goodbye. Also, too, we've got a little bit of NHL, a little bit of WNBA, and even some baseball, of course, as the Cubs, get 2 out of 3 against Seattle. Well, the Sox, the rest of the
she's very nice right now.
Yes, well, yeah, we'll sit with her for a couple of those games, but we'll get to all that later on, and of course, a special edition of Old School TV Monday. But first, the Bulls, thank God the regular season of the NBA is over with. Some of the playoff matches are set, but some aren't. And of course, the play-in, as the Bulls will face the Hawks. They will host the Hawks Wednesday, I should say. And the winner, should the Bulls win that, they will face the loser of the Heat and Sixers over there. But first, Sid, they lose a tough one against the Knicks. The Knicks, we'll get to what that meant for the Knicks after the break. But the Bulls are just kind of like just sailing along. And, unfortunately, if you're, Billy Donovan, the rest of that crew, I know guys have been banged up. I know Andre Jones have banged up for the last, couple weeks. Io didn't play yesterday. could the Bulls make some noise? Could the Bulls, should win, but of course, unfortunately, of course, the Hawks did beat the Bulls the last time they played, last week. But it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, the Bulls made the play in, yay! So I don't know. So what do you think?
Here's the thing. I was encouraged on how they played yesterday because I thought they were going to mail it in because they already clinched their 9th playoff spot last week. So I thought they were going to mail it in. Give Billy Donovan, the Bulls head coach, credit. Give the players the ultimate credit for playing hard because the Knicks were going for their 50th win of the year, which they eventually got. But DeMar DeRozan, he was the man again. I know he missed a shot that would potentially won the game in overtime, but Nikolai Vucevic, who's been struggling for the last few weeks, he's been picking up his play for the last few games. He scored a total of 29 points. He was the second leading scorer for the Bulls. I like what I saw from him. Kobe White chipped in with 26. He had a good shooting day overall, but not from three-point land, but he was 12 of 18 overall. And like you mentioned, Ayo Dosunmu didn't play, but you like what he's brought to this Bulls team all year long. I am encouraged about what the Bulls did. I know they didn't get much from the bench, only 8 points, but they could have milled it in. But here's the thing, Lakina. Despite what you mentioned, all the injuries all year long to Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso at times, even Ayo Dosunmu, as you mentioned, at times, and of course, Torrey Craig. You can go up and down the line. This Bulls team, whether we like it or not, Lakina, they have played hard, but at some point, you have to throw that out of the window. You expect more from this team, but given the circumstances, we had to grade them on a slight curve. You had to give them a passing grade. Now, am I going to sit here and say they're going to do damage if they happen to get into the playoffs? No, because the Celtics are going to whoop that. You know what? If they happen to win these 2 games in the play-in tournament coming up later this week, but this Bulls squad has held their head up high throughout all this. But as we talk about Lakina, I know we're going to talk about it in our right now in our next shows and the shows coming up leading to July's free agency period. This Bulls roster needs to change, but how much is going to change with them being up against the cap? I don't know, but just consider this team has survived the regular season with a passing grade. This is what happens when you're in NBA hell. Let's be honest here.
Well, yeah, plus you got DeMar saying he wants to stay, and I think there's kind of like that. I think he's 34 now. I mean, there's kind of like that comfort level. You can kind of be sort of like the mentor. The mentor for some of these younger players, like like Kobe White and P. Will. When he comes back next season. So for me, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I know people want to say, well, let's strip it down. Let's bring in Bob Myers, and well, here's a couple of things. We'll do this. I'll do this real quick, but how do you know that? What we see that you think Bob Myers wants to come to this situation?
No,
I doubt it. And if also too, if you're kind of like in that look at Orlando. Look how long it took Orlando to figure it out. It took about like 12 years to figure it out. You want to be to the point where you strip everything down and then you're kind of like still stuck for like another like 5 to 10 years. All these folks that are screaming at the rooftops for rebuild. You're not going to be patient for it. So you kind of try to do something here, and maybe I don't know. I doubt Ryan Stone's going to want to spend any more money because he's already up against the cap. He's not going to have to want to pay that luxury tax. So for me, it's just like you're kind of stuck in NBA hell, but it could be worse. That's all I'm going to say.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago as we discuss the Bulls' regular season finale loss to the New York Knicks yesterday by a score of 120 to 119 at MSG. The Bulls finished the regular season with 39 wins and 43 losses, one less victory than they did a year ago when they finished 40-42, split their 2 play-in tournament games. Lakina, it looks like the same thing is going to happen again this year. As you mentioned, they'll play the Atlanta Hawks at the United Center on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. Love them 8:30 starts, Lakina, Central Standard Time. And watch, they'll go into double overtime. That game's going to end close to midnight.
Oh, goody. Well, don't tell everybody it's Matt Peck and Dave Watson from CSGO Bulls. I'm sure they would love that.
But Lakina, as we, I guess, give our little preview of that game on Wednesday, what do you expect to see from this Bulls team? You mentioned Ayo Dosunmu sat out yesterday's game. We do not know the status of Andre Drummond, who got hurt last week. Of course, they could use both those guys. My gut feeling, it's just my gut feeling. I think Ayo may return for that game on Wednesday. Maybe so for Andre Drummond, but I'm not sure. But whatever bodies that the Bulls have left, what chances do you give them to win this game against another injury-riddled team in the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where I know the Bulls lost to Hawks the last time they played them last week, but you can look. I think Caruso didn't play. I think Io didn't play that game either. So I think if you're the Bulls, you get them at home. So I think that helps a little bit, and it's going to be interesting because as long, I mean, it's kind of hard to kind of figure out like what the Bulls, all that, but it's going to be interesting because I think it's kind of you're in a kind of a similar situation. I mean, they've been with the hospital out Trey Young for like the last 3 months. Um, we gotta slow down Clint Capella and Bogdanovich. I mean, he was the reason why the Bulls, they lost to the Bulls last time a couple weeks ago. So if you can kind of slow them down and perhaps get Kobe White, I know he's been struggling the last couple of weeks. Try let Demar do his thing. Vooch needs to be more involved in the offense. So that's gonna be really gonna be the key. The Bulls want to try to see if they'll have to go on the road wherever they go, Philadelphia or Miami. And it's gonna be interesting to see kind of like how all this kind of like sets up because it's gonna be interesting to see I'm sure the Hawks kind of like meandering along. So it's really gonna depend on who wants to be there most.
Yeah, as you're talking about, we know about Trey Young and Deontay Murray. You mentioned Clint Capella, who's been there before when he was with the Houston Rockets back in the day. They can score the ball, but they cannot play a lick of defense. We know this Bulls team can't play defense when they are focused to do so. I think, like you said, that home crowd will help the Chicago Bulls, especially if they get up to a strong start, which I expect on Wednesday. But how are you going to defend Trey Young, and how will you defend the paint? And this has been a problem for this Bulls team over the last 2 or 3 years. Defense within the interior, and I'm looking for block shots and rebound. I think it's going to be the key here. How you defend the pick and roll and rebound. And that's why I'm concerned about the health of Andre Drummond. We know what you're going to get from Vooch, especially offensively, but rebounding, which I think is going to be the one of the big keys to this game.
It's really gonna depend, like, it may have to outshoot, Atlanta. Look what happened, they gave 157 points in their last game, against the Pacers, so I think having Young back, I think, will help them, but again, you can tell he's still trying to, get back going because remember, he hasn't if you can kinda slow him down doing what he does, 'cause I'm sure he's still a little bit, kind of a shell of himself, so I think for me, it's really good you're gonna have to kinda jump on them early and kinda, like, put them away right away. Because if you let them hang around, that's not a good thing. So if you're the Bulls, you wanna try to step on them and step on them early.
Yes, as you know as well as I do, Lakina, and all of our listeners and viewers out there, the NBA is a series of runs throughout the 48-minute game. Whoever can sustain their run the longest and the best will win this ball game. And for the Bulls, they have an overall better talent roster rise than the Atlanta Hawks. They should be able to win this game. Assuming that they do, Lakina, do you give them a chance on Friday against Philadelphia or Miami? Because remember what happened last year against Miami. You were up 5 at their place with 3 minutes to go, and you wet the bed.
Well, remember Jimmy's not there for Miami, and Philadelphia's been playing a little bit better lately. So I think should you get, don't look past Atlanta, but should you get past Atlanta, I think you would rather play the Heat than the Sixers. Because although you did beat the Sixers with Embiid, that was early on. So
Mhm.
I think I would rather play the Heat. But again, you never know where things happen. These play-ins we've seen in the last couple of years of this.
And one minute point, Lakina, I know this is not of importance right now, but yesterday was the last regular season broadcast for the Chicago Bulls on NBC Sports Chicago. I didn't get that sentiment yesterday, but their contract runs out in the month of October. I'm not going to ask you, will the Bulls find a new home or not? We assume that the announcement is going to be made over the summer, but the Bulls may be looking for a new home come September, early October. Or what are your thoughts? Or did you even think about that watching the game yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I know they kind of, they really didn't, give away too much. So you kind of wonder, like, okay, could they maybe extend the deal for another year or two? Do they do what some of the other teams are doing now, going the direct air, meaning that they do locally? Maybe they have it on, like the, CW, on Channel 9 or whatever, or do they? I doubt they're going to put it all on streaming because they want to kind of keep that linear audience there. So,
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, I think they're either going to stay over at NBC Sports Chicago. Same thing with Blackhawks. We'll talk about them later because they just did
Hmm.
their last home game, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because this is going to get a little bit interesting over the summer.
All right. The NBA regular season also came to a close yesterday. As Lakina mentioned, some of the playoff matchups are set. We'll give you the schedule for the play-in tournament that starts on Tuesday, and we'll get into a little WNBA draft as well. And the Chicago Sky are making moves. Throw your rollers in the sky, as the late great Notorious B.I.G. once said. We'll get into that and a whole lot more as we're kicking off the latest Monday edition of Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the Second City Sports Monday edition. We're live in the color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And you follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us, please don't be afraid to respond. Put them in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get the best ones up on the screen for you.
Okay, so let's start with the rest of the NBA as Phoenix beat Minnesota 125-106. Bradley Beal led the way for for the Suns with 36 points. That coupled with the Pelicans losing to who the hell did I forgot who the New Orleans was. Oh yeah, that's right. Yesterday, because I'm sure there was a lot of scoreboard watching going on because both the games were going on at the same time, and because of that, now they didn't finish tie, but the Suns, even though they did lose to the Pelicans last week, but they do have the tiebreaker, and so that means that the Suns go to the main draw at number 6, while the Pelicans will have to face LeBron, and they do host LeBron and the Lakers. So where do you see this matchup?
Here's the thing about the Lakers, and congratulations to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I think LeBron James played in 70 games this year. It sure didn't seem like it, but Anthony Davis played 75. So congratulations to both those players for playing at least the majority of the year. Number 2, we talked about this all year, Lakina. The lack of a third scorer from this Lakers squad. Austin Reeves has struggled. D'Angelo Russell had a nice stretch even a little bit after the All-Star break, but has tailed off ever since. I know the injuries to Jerry Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent have hurt this team all year long, but the roster construction is totally different from what happened a year ago. Thanks to GM Rob Pelinka for that. He was the king of the hill a year ago. And then now he's looking like a dummy, for lack of a better term. But as far as this matchup is concerned, can the Lakers win this game? I believe it's on Tuesday. We'll give the schedule out in just a moment. But can they win this game against New Orleans? Yes, but as we've been talking about over the last couple months, Lakina, I like the balance of this New Orleans Pelicans team. Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, who was injured early year, has come back, has made an impact. Zion Williamson, he's been focused on the court. He's actually been very productive. So you still have Matt Peck's guy from CHGO, friend of the show, Jose Alvarado. Sorry, Matt, we love you. But you still have a balanced roster with the New Orleans Pelicans. You're talking about a team that can score. That team can score with anybody. But I think the key for this contest coming up later this week is defense. Can Anthony Davis, who's been very healthy this year, especially on the defensive end, can he control the paint, especially when guarding Zion Williamson?
And that's going to be the thing because they literally just played yesterday. So I hope the Lakers kind of stayed in New Orleans. So it's going to be interesting to see if you can kind of see. I think the Lakers took control of the game late, and of course, but AD had to leave with back spasms, so that's something to look out for in this game tomorrow. So should be interesting to see. I mean, look, if you're the Pelicans, you want to try to get Ingram involved, you want to try to get Zion involved, especially on the inside. Perhaps maybe try to slow down LeBron. And we'll see how AD's back, holds up. So, but the Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, those guys need to step up like they did yesterday. So they really, if they want to advance, they need to step it up so that they can advance, perhaps beat the Pelicans again, and perhaps they'll have to go on a road to whoever they face. But it should be interesting. Should be an entertaining one as it was yesterday.
Yes, and it should be. As we talked about with the New Orleans Pelicans, especially for the second half of the season, do not sleep on these guys because if the Lakers do, it's really going to cost them. So they better bring that A game and have all healthy bodies ready to go.
Golden State and Sacramento will be the second game of that play-in. All the Western Conference games will be on the play-in. Both these teams split. These teams. They did keep it cordial, but you can tell these teams do not like each other because they did split their season series. So if you're Golden State, you're I don't want to say you're limping it, but you're kind of like dragging yourselves into that play-in. And for me, I think, look, Steph, Clay, Draymond, I mean, look, this is not their first rodeo, so they know what to do. They know what it takes to win, but it's going to be the younger guys. It's going to be guys like Kuminga. It's going to be, look, CP3 is going to get, get a little bit more playoff experience because he's going to need to step up. As for Sacramento, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but you do get them at home, but you want to try to get that revenge from last year. But if you're the Warriors, you may have the upper hand based on experience, especially.
I know you just said the home court is a big advantage for Sacramento, correct?
Yes.
Remember what happened last year in Game 7? It had to take a 50-point performance for Steph Curry for the Warriors to eliminate the Sacramento Kings. But here's the thing that's different this year, Lakina. Malik Monk is injured. Last year's Sixth Man of the Year candidate. I don't think he's going to be available for this game, so that changes things for Sacramento. Domantas Sabonis is going to have a big game inside, and De'Aaron Fox is going to have to run the show and step up. Remember, he was nicked up in the playoff series last year, but he continued to soldier on. Here's the thing for the Golden State Warriors on the flip side. Draymond Green, he had another hiccup a couple weeks ago, but he's been on this behavior average at best ever since. Remember, he lost it in the beginning of that series last year. It's going to be up to him to take control of his emotions as he goes up against the Sabonis this go around in a 1-game playoff. Klay Thompson, we saw him being the old Klay Thompson for the last couple weeks. Steph Curry, the same thing. But I'm going to give you a couple guys to keep your eye on for Golden State. Mike Potts, Podziemski, and Jonathan Kuminga, as you just mentioned. If those two guys can have any role offensively, just in case Curry and or Thompson struggles, I think the Sacramento Kings can. I think the Golden State Warriors can go in there and steal that ball game.
Oh boy, it should be entertaining because we'll remember. So sure, gonna be a lot. The Warriors fans travel well, and Sacramento's not that far from the Bay Area. So I'm wondering you're going to be seeing a lot of Warriors fans there tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to see. It could help the Warriors too a lot, like it did last year. So we'll see what happens. And the other game in the Eastern Conference play-in, you got Miami and Philadelphia. Philadelphia had a little hiccup the last couple games, but it looks like Joel Embiid is starting to get it going. The Heat, they had their chance to try. they had their chance. The last couple of games they did beat Toronto in their last game of the season yesterday, but they had their chance perhaps maybe getting in that main draw. They weren't able to do it, so now you're playing a Philly team that's that's kind of getting hot. They won 6 of the last 8. Especially with B, he's trying to get it going. Maxey, is getting it going for it. I think that's really going to be the key because if you're Miami, you're kind of like, I don't want to say you're kind of dragging along like some of the other teams, but in this case, Miami is just like you really need some of your guys to step up. It's just how it is. Jimmy Butler, you gotta try to get him going. I know he's still been a little bit banged up. Bam's got to be on point. Hero as well. So for me, you kind of have to get those guys going because if not, Philadelphia's going to run them out of the building, and I would be surprised if that happens.
Here's the thing, Lakina. I know your casual fan looks at this matchup and say, hey, Miami's been there before. They did last year, even though they lost their first playing game to the Atlanta Hawks last year at home. Well, they beat the Bulls. They got on a hot streak, which they did shooting from the outside, 3-point range specifically. But they got on the road. They made it to the NBA Finals. They could do it again. Well, folks, you cannot turn it on and off. Yes, is Eric Spoelstra the head coach of the Miami Heat? Is he the best coach in basketball? Yes. But here's the thing. They've been dealing with more injuries this year than they were last year. And like you mentioned, they can't get that third scorer to be consistent with Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. I know they acquired Scary Terry Rozier at the All-Star break, but I know they brought back Kevin Love. Why they do that, I don't know, but that's a whole other issue. But the Miami Heat, they're dealing with more stuff now than they did the year before. And I don't know if they have enough to muster to beat Philadelphia. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's tough for this go around this year. Like you mentioned on the other side of Philadelphia, Embiid looks like he's starting to get into playing shape. He's scoring from the inside. He can shoot the ball from the outside, but it's up to Nicholas Batum, Tobias Harris to help out Tyrese Maxey. And Philadelphia's been playing very well in team basketball over these last couple of weeks, and they feed off Embiid. If they could do that, I think they'll be able to win that ball game.
Could be very entertaining, but look, I think every you gotta think they do have a shot, but Miami literally has to play probably their best basketball on Wednesday. They want to have a shot, perhaps having to avoid having to face the Bulls or the Hawks winners. So could be interesting to see what happens with that. Now the rest of the schedule outside of the playoffs, they start this weekend. The Knicks get the 2, become a 2 seed, look, it's because of that win against the Bulls. And I know, OG Omanabi, I know Coach Tibbs was a little bit, kind of quiet on whether or not, because you can tell he's still a little bit banged up. So for me, I think, look, we've seen this movie before where you're just like, okay, because you saw what happened last year. A lot of those guys end up, wearing themselves out in the end. So I'm a little worried about Jalen Brunson because remember he had an injury earlier this year where he was gone for about a month. So especially no Julius Randle. Some people say, well, they play better without him, but you're going to need somebody there to help out Brunson. Especially in the playoffs, you want to go deep and be that 2 seed worthy.
Another guy, Isaiah Hardenstein, who could plug up the middle there. I know they have Mitchell Robinson, who was injured early in the year. He's back now, so I think that's going to help out the Knicks on the defensive end to a point. But it's going to come a point, whichever team that the Knicks are going to face, should they move on further in this playoff run, that they're going to miss Julius Randle. I know he, according to some Knicks fans and some pundits, he hasn't been the guy the last couple years. But the Knicks. They still need scoring outside of Jalen Brunson. I know Josh Hart is there, and you still have OJ Anunoby, like you say, who's still nicked up again. But it's going to have to be a team effort offensively, in my opinion, for the Knicks. They're going to bring it defensively, but it's offensively who's going to step up to be that second guy to help out Jalen Brunson. Now, I'll give you this question, Lakina: If you're Coach Tom Thibodeau, who you want to face, Philadelphia and Joel Embiid, who you had some success against, or you want to face the Knicks, who you lost to last year in 5 games?
If you're Miami,
if you're in New York.
Well, okay, so either the Knicks or the
they'll play the winner of the Philadelphia Miami game.
Yeah, so if you I think you rather play Miami because you want to try to get their revenge after what happened last year. But also too, remember though, the Sixers are a totally different team now, so. And look, all you got to
the Knicks, because that's when the absence of Julius Randle will come in.
Yeah, so so especially you got Embiid, who is getting better. It's a better playing shape. So I think if you're the Knicks, you probably would rather play Miami or maybe even the Bulls for that matter. Should they get in? So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires there. Now the 3-6 matchups already set in the East. You got the Bucks and the Pacers. These teams have. Well, I don't want to say they don't. Okay, yeah, I can say they probably don't like each other because we saw what happened earlier this year with the whole thing with the jerseys and whatever. But
I want that game ball. I'm Giannis and I'm scoring 60 points. Give me that damn game ball.
Well, yeah, that whole thing. But yeah, I mean the Bucks have struggled these last few months with Doc Rivers at the helm. Indiana, you saw him score 157 points yesterday, so I guess you take the over on some of those games. But yeah, I mean. I can really feel like this series is probably a toss-up in my opinion.
As our good friend, hopefully soon to be friend of the show, Jason Goff of NBC Sports Chicago would say, this is an NBA TV series, okay? I don't see a TNT or ESPN wasting their time airing this series on their airwaves, but I digress. But congratulations to Rick Carlisle. I know many people didn't expect Indiana to be a top 6 team in the NBA playoffs this year. And gotten the job done. I know they made the trade for Pascal Siakam for Toronto early in the year. I know we saw a no pun intended coming out party for Tyrese Halliburton in the first time All-Star. He's had a great year. But Lakina, on the flip side for the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm worried about them because they haven't played consistent team defense enough for me to feel confident in them. And number 2, the health status of Giannis Antetokounmpo, as we expected, is up in the air right now. I think in the perfect world, if the Bucks can beat the Pacers and sweep them or beat them in a 5-game series and not play Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think they'll take that approach because the more rest Giannis gets, I think their chances will increase as the playoffs go along. But everything's got to depend on Chris Middleton, who made it back the last month and a half. It starts with Damian Lillard, and it's going to have to trickle down to the rest of the guys. I think Milwaukee will win this series, but you have to go by game to game on the status of Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think in a perfect world, if you're Milwaukee, not have Giannis play at all in this series and try to get rid of the Pacers quickly.
Well, but the problem is that the Pacers have given the Bucks trouble even without Giannis. So especially with Giannis, being a little banged up with that hamstring. And we know hamstrings are tricky. So I'm not going to say that the Bucks are going to lose to the Pacers, but should they beat them, I mean, they wouldn't be surprised. Heads are going to roll over in Milwaukee. So that's something to look out for there. The 4 or 5 matchup, you got Cleveland. We kind of expected Cleveland to get to number 4. But you got Orlando making their first trip to the playoffs. I think about like 18 years or so, 17 or 18 years or something like that.
Not that long, Lakina.
Okay. Well, I'm being facetious with that comment. It's been a long time, maybe about like 11 years. I think it was the last time they went. But I think if you're the Magic, I think you gotta Paulo Pacquiao, Franz Wagner. I mean, I think you gotta get those guys, I think, would encourage you. You got to get those guys kind of going and get that playoff experience because it's going to be interesting. Because Cleveland, they've got it, so it's really gonna like if the Cavs use that experience. I know Donovan Mitchell's been banged up, back and forth, but that to me is going to be the key here, especially if you're in the Cavs, you want to try to send a message to say, hey, you know what? Well, we've been there. We know what it is. You guys, some of y'all have not. Most of y'all have not been there yet. So if you want to try to send a message early.
I'll give JB Bicker's staff his son credit, who's the coach of the Cavaliers credit, because they've been dealing with more injuries this year than they did last year, even though they had a disappointing playoff series against the Knicks last year. But I get the feel, Lakina, with all the injuries that the Cavaliers have been dealing with this year, including Donovan Mitchell, I don't know how ready they're going to be come this series against Orlando. I think Orlando, as you mentioned, those guys on the front line with Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and I'm blanking here for a minute, but with those two guys, guys that I mentioned, they're going to give that Cleveland front line trouble. I know you have Evan Mobley. You still got my guy Jared Allen, who was an All-Star a couple of years ago, but those guys have been really big disappointments over the last couple of years, and I'm not sure they're going to be ready enough to handle Orlando's young front line. We all know Orlando has a very good backcourt, but their front line is very underrated, but it's very good at the same time. I think it's going to come down to the front court for both of these teams.
This is Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you, doing a little mini playoff preview here on Second City Sports. Yeah, I think for me, I think you just said, I think if you're Wagner, if you're with the cards, you want to try to like pound that front court for Cleveland a little early because they Mobley struggled, Allen has struggled. You really haven't heard their names very much most of the season. So especially with Donovan Mitchell still a little bit banged up, how he's going to look. So I think Orlando could perhaps maybe give the Cavs all they can handle. So we'll just see what happens there. Now let's go west real quick. OKC, they become the number 1 seed. So I don't think anybody thought that would happen, especially this early on, especially with this rebuild, if you will. You give the coach of the Thunder credit. You try to kind of like see if they can we'll see how they go. So it'll depend on if they have to face the Lakers, they got to face Golden State. That's gonna be interesting to see what they do. They're gonna get a little bit of a wake up call for some veteran teams. So we'll see what happens with that. Now Denver, I think if you're okay, you're 2 seed, kind of takes the kind of heat off you. Really trying to. This is when you got to get it going. So you got to get Jamal Murray. You got to of course we know Joe's gonna do his thing, so you don't have to worry about him. Aaron Gordon, you got it's really the back end guys that you have to step up.
Yeah, Christian Brown. Remember, he had the impact games of 4 and 5 in last year's NBA Final Series against Miami. You had to expect guys like that to fill in that role. Don't forget about Aaron Gordon as well. He had a very good playoff run with the Denver Nuggets last year as well, the former Orlando Magic player. So look for him to have another deep impact for the Nuggets in this playoff run. But I want to go back to OKC for a moment, Lakina. In the remarkable season that they had, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think he should be MVP, but they'll probably give it to Jokic. Chet Holmgren who should be Rookie of the Year. He'll be placed second next to Victor Wembanyama of San Antonio. But Jalen Williams has had a nice year. I mentioned his name all year long, and the rest of that team, they have a nice bench, and that's what I like. But their reward is, whether it's the Pelicans or the Lakers or maybe the Warriors, it's going to be tough. Now, if you're the Thunder, would you rather face the Lakers? I don't think they want to face the Lakers if you're OKC, but if you have to face the Pelicans or the Warriors, then maybe. But if you're OKC, call me crazy, but even though on paper you could beat the Lakers, I don't want to face the Lakers because LeBron James is going to bring it. And I don't know if one person on OKC's team can stop LeBron or Anthony Davis.
Well, congratulations. Well, they wanted to be, in the big time. So now you're in the big time. Now the problem is that now you got to probably have to face one of those teams. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes there. Now the rest of the West matchups, you got the T-Wolves and the Suns. They got a little bit of a rivalry here. Beal and Anthony Edwards kind of got a little bit into it in that game yesterday. So, that's gonna be interesting because I think if you're the Suns, I think look, you gotta look. Everyone's got to step up in that big three. KD, we know he's got a lot of playoff experience. Book's got a lot of playoff experience. This will be the first time for Bradley Beal in a long time. So, but it's really going to have to be that back end. The back end guys going to have to step up for your Phoenix and Minnesota. We'll see. I mean, look, it looks like Towns is Towns is going to get him a couple of games, kind of get going. So this could go 6 or 7, I think.
I think it's going to go the full 7. I'll just kind of give my prediction away. We'll do a deeper dive into all the playoff matchups coming up on Friday with our illustrious panel. But with this matchup, Lakina, now since Phoenix avoided the play-in tournament, I think they're going to get a good revival. They're going to give fresh energy of we don't have to play a couple of extra games, which saves wear and tear for both Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. So I think they're going to get a revive there. But here's the thing. Phoenix does not have a bench. And outside Yusef Nurkic, their big guy, which, I like that move, after the Damian Lillard trade. I don't like the rest of that bench, and they really have no depth in the middle. So heaven forbid that Yusef Nurkic gets in foul trouble. Phoenix is in trouble. We already know that they don't have a point guard. Devin Booker runs the show, but he's a scorer, not a true point guard. And on the flip side for Minnesota, give Chris Finch, their head coach, credit because Minnesota statistically is playing the best defense in the league. And like you mentioned with Karl-Anthony Towns there, we know what a beast he is, especially offensively. But defensively, where he brings it, we know about Rudy Gobert. Anthony Edwards, we saw him in the playoffs a few years ago against Memphis. He was coming into his own. Now he's a full-fledged superstar. Who's going to guard him? I don't think it's going to be Kevin Durant full-time, but if you could contain him, I think Phoenix can win this series. But if you cannot contain Anthony Edwards, it's going to be a long, long, long series for Phoenix.
See, weird things happen those 3-6 matchups, so we'll see what happens there. Now, the 4 or 5 matchups, the Clippers and the Mavs. Now, the good news for the Clippers is that they actually do get home court, so that should help them a little bit. Now, Kawhi, we don't know if he's going to be available, so that's really going to be kind of like the hiccup there. Now, the Clippers did beat the Mavs last time they played without Kawhi, so that might help them a little bit with confidence-wise. But PG's gotta step up. We know Russell Westbrook's back there. He has to step up. James Harden now for the Mavs. Of course, we know Luka's going to do his thing. Kyrie. It's really going to be the supporting cast for both these teams. And who steps up? That's going to be the key in this series, I think.
I'm watching for these 2 acquisitions for the Dallas Mavericks that they traded for at the trade deadline back in February. PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, the former Chicago Bull from a few years ago. Those 2 guys have really changed the complexity of this Dallas Mavericks team. They're better defensively, especially rebounding-wise. It has given Luka and Kyrie more freedom to operate, especially driving the ball inside. You mentioned Luka will probably finish number 3 or number 4 in MVP voting. He has had a heck of a year, especially in the second half of the year after the All-Star break. Kyrie Irving, after struggling last year, coming over via that trade from Brooklyn, he's really settling in his role, and him and Luka are really playing some great basketball. But I'm getting a slight edge to the Clippers. Hopefully Kawhi Leonard can play, but Paul George has been on fire these last couple of weeks after saying to the media that this team has no identity, that they had that little mini struggle there. You mentioned Russell Westbrook is back. He's playing like he's never left. And I like some of the young guys like Coffee, who's been stepping up all year, and Bones Highland, the former Denver Nugget. He's been playing a very pivotal role there too. So I think this series will go 6 to 7 games, but I'm giving, as of right now, a slight, and I do mean a slight edge to the Clippers. If you're Dallas, you worry about the fatigue factor of Luka Doncic.
That's going to be the thing. You saw a little bit of that. We saw a little bit of that last year. That's why Dallas is missing the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. Now, real quick with the schedule, we'll talk some WNBA draft. After we do this, real quick, of course, Tuesday, tomorrow you got the Lakers and the Pelicans. Both these games are on TNT, by the way. The first game at 6:30, Golden State and Sacramento. That's at 9:00, also on TNT.
All right, and for Wednesday, your schedule looks like this. The Philadelphia 76ers will play the Miami Heat. That's at 6:00 on ESPN. That's a Wednesday, followed by the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls live from the UC on ESPN. You gotta love those 8:30 Central Time starts.
Woohoo! Fun. This is Second City Sports. Sports of Chicago, King McGee, Cindy Brown with you. We'll do this stuff, preview of the WNBA draft. We know Caitlin Clark's going to be going to the Indiana Fever. They've already making plans for her to to show. I think most of their games going to be on ESPN or ABC and their family networks. The Chicago Sky did swap picks and prospects with the Minnesota Lynx, so they will. I believe they draft 6 now, I believe. So you got Carmela Cardoso, who was the most outstanding player for South Carolina. She might be in the top 5, so they may just miss her. I know there are a couple other players that some people say that they get the Sky have their eye on, perhaps in the number 6 spot. But we'll be interested to see where some of these ladies go.
I would love to see Angel Reese. I don't know if she'll fall that far to the Chicago Sky at number 7, but if she does, I'll welcome her because let's be honest here, Lakina. After that 2021 championship, I know the Sky almost ran it back the following year, but these last couple of years, they've been struggling to find an identity, to find a star. And with them making that move with the Minnesota Lynx yesterday, they need a star, and I think Cardoso or Angel Reese will help out with the Sky. Now, am I going to say here that they're going to make the Sky is going to make it to playoffs with that one move? Of course not. We know that in any sport, especially in basketball, you need players. You need that one superstar that's going to jump off to have that starting point, but you need other role players around them. So, Angel Reese or Cardoso, I'll be fine with the Sky select one of them tonight.
Yeah, I think butts in the seats because we know that the attendance kind of went down a little bit last year. So especially since they got rid of everybody, James Wade left, for the NBA, and I think the one thing about Chicago, look, people like a winner, but you gotta sustain it, and I think that's unfortunately the problem the last couple of years with this guy because they haven't been able to sustain it because of the fact that they kind of had to tear it all down. So Teresa Witherspoon, of course, national championship, multiple time gold medal winner. I think she has a couple of WNBA championships too in her own right. They got her there now, so that could help them a little bit. But yeah, I think if the Sky gets either Cardoso or Reese, I think get the buzz going here in Chicago. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, and also too, Lakina, I don't know if you've been watching some of the film via social media. I got my TV on right now on SportsCenter. Caitlin Clark and the rest of the top 10 picks have been touring the Empire State Building. I think it's a great thing for the WNBA and the women's game in general. But here's the thing. The WNBA must continue to market to casual fans like yours truly that, if you want us to watch the big stars or watch your games, you got to have big stars. If you want to have big stars, you got to market. Now, tonight they're going to do it with the WNBA Giant, which is a start. But once the games get started, you got to keep those eyeballs on the television. And I'll give a shout out real quick to Las Vegas Aces. The arena that they're playing right now only holds 10,000 people. I know we talked about on the last couple of shows that the tennis across the league has been down, but when Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever will visit Las Vegas to play the Aces, I believe it's on July the 2nd, it's going to be moved to T-Mobile Arena where the Vegas Golden Knights, the hockey team, plays, and that hosts about 18,000. Shouts out to T-Mobile Arena for opening up the arena to the Las Vegas Aces because that's the power of Caitlin Clark, and that's the power of marketing.
Well, I think it's go even bigger than the marketing part. I think it's just one of those things where you got to sustain it, and I think that's been the problem. You thought that once Taurasi and Sue Bird and that class came in, you thought that it was going to sustain it. It didn't. We'll see what happens. With Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso. Hopefully that can kind of keep it going there until Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers. Well, Beckers will be there next year because this is her last year of eligibility. I know Juju Watkins up to she'll only be a sophomore, but it's really good about sustainability and marketing, to the people. And I think that's been the problem with WBA the last few years is the fact that there hasn't been a lot of marketing. You thought that maybe you thought they could figure it out, but something happens and it doesn't work that way. So.
Yeah, real quickly, Keenan, I know we got a break, but did you catch Caitlin Clark's appearance on the weekend update?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, if the basketball doesn't work out, she actually has a pretty good comedic timing. And I know some people say, well, why? Yeah, why wasn't Angel Reese or Carmela Cardoso? Why wasn't she there last year? And Carmela Cardoso, why she wasn't there this year? I mean, I think about what you remember when Christian Laettner did SNL like a couple weeks after. Now, granted, he won 2 national championships. That's what he's coming off of. So
I forgot about that. I used to watch that show all the time when growing up. I forgot he did that.
Yeah, that was like years ago. That was like a couple weeks after they I think it was right before he graduated from Duke, I think. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's like I don't know. I know people want to bring race into it, blah blah blah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, look, she was actually pretty good. She and Michael Chi or Chap, I forgot how he says his name, but they had a nice little back and forth banter. So it was fine. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was clever myself. So, and don't think for a second that King Clark is not getting any financial benefits from that from what she did on Saturday. I know she's one of the first female athletes since we had the new name, image, and likeness rule from college sports, and so she's taking advantage of it. And props up to her for doing that.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports at Sports Show Chicago. The Keenan McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Of course, we're going to go to the Diamond up next. The Sox. Of course, the Cubs got a nice series against the Mariners, and so much more. Like Sydney Brown, Second City Sports, Sports Chicago, of course, the Old School TV Monday. Hawks, the NHL, they finish up their season. Scottie Scheffler wins another Masters, and a whole lot more stuff coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, it's scared, but you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of this Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the Vicala Right Hill Sports Zone, Chicago. I'm Sid Veslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, like go again, the IG.
We have less than 50 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio show. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to go to the comments section. If you want to do so, please go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Look in, I'll get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in living color right now on Roku TV.
All right, let's go to Diamond Harrison as, of course, this weekend. Of course, we'll start with the Cubs. We start locally, of course. The Cubs did, get 2 out of 3 against the Mariners, and including a very interesting and entertaining game last night to win the series. They get, the bullpen, of course, made it interesting as usual. They loaded the bases, but Dansby Swanson with a nice double play ball there that got him out of that inning. And of course, it was a pickoff from Julio Rodriguez. They got the tag. Swanson got the tag, and of course, the Cubs ended up winning that game and the series. So really nice showing there. Michael Busch doing something that that Chris Morel just did last year, winning and hitting a home run in 4 straight games. It's been happening like 5 times. I know Morel did it last year. He had a nice series as well. Morel did. So a really good showing by a really good for Cubs, because a really solid team in the Mariners.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the situation. You beat me to it yesterday, Lakina, about my bases loaded situation in the bottom of the 8th. Shout out to Hector Neris, the former Astros pitcher. Of course, he was on the mound, and he threw a key pitch that you mentioned that Dansby Swanson created, that double play to get him out of it. You could tell that Neris and that whole team from the Cubs was fired up after that play yesterday, because if that didn't happen, perhaps Seattle would have won the ball game. Now, Seattle beat him flat out on Friday, 4-1. But the bats woke up for the Cubs the last 2 games of that series. Seiya Suzuki, you mentioned Michael Busch. Don't forget about Miguel Amaya, the backup catcher. He had a home run in Saturday's win as well. Let's talk about the starting pitcher, Lagina. Shota Imanaka, 0.00 ERA. Obviously, that's not going to last throughout the season. Other teams are going to figure him out. But that strong left-handed rookie, he's been very impressive. And let's not forget about Javier Assad yesterday, Lakina. 6 strikeouts to 5 2/3 innings. Remember, we talked about on our show last Friday, his last start, talking about Assad's against San Diego. He got the run support, but that bullpen gave it away. That did not happen yesterday. So Javier Assad, thank goodness he finally got a win under his belt for his performance.
Yeah, you saw. I think even Craig Counsell got a little bit fired up there after that Swanson double play. So he was he's very even keel for the most part. But yeah, I think that bullpen is still a little bit concerning for the Cubs. I mean, you may have to use the bats in order to get things going there and get those wins. But look, I mean, you win 2 out of 3. You go to Arizona. They've been kind of struggling a little bit lately. So maybe if you can win the series there, come back home this weekend, and perhaps maybe you'll get a nice record going. Where you start your homestand again. So yeah, I think if you're the Cubs, I mean, it's going to be, like I said, the bullpen is going to be an adventure. So, that is what it is. But they were able to bounce back from that loss on Friday, and look, they ended up having a really nice series in Seattle.
Yeah, so the Cubs are 9-6 right now. They're right in the thick of it in the NL Central race, but it's still early, as I believe that we're entering the 3rd week of the season so far. So the Cubs have been built through their pitching, through their farm system the last couple of years, and in defense. And they made some key defensive plays over the weekend in that series against Seattle, but they're really being carried by the offense right now. As I said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times as the season goes along. Outside of Atlanta, outside the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think the Cubs had the best offense, third best offense in the National League. As we talked about already, Lakina, just from this last 2 games of the Seattle series alone, they could mash it up with anybody.
They really can. So should be fun. They got of course, Arizona. They start that series tomorrow. Now, gotta go to your White Sox. I know you went to a couple of these games against Seattle. They're 2-13 after getting swept by the Reds, and I mean, you take this, because I know you went to a couple of the game. I know you went to yesterday's game. You went to Saturday's game as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with Saturday's game. Garrett Crochet, even though that 3rd inning was a disaster, he still struck out 10. And the White Sox offense did not help him out. But shout out to our guy Josh Nelson, who happened the chance to sit right in front of in Saturday's game. The Sox were down 5-0. Kevin Pillar By the way, he was cut, and then he was picked up in the last minute before the regular season started. Just a footnote, don't forget that.
Mhm.
Kevin Pillar draws a walk in the ninth inning. Gets on first base. The third pitch, Lakina. The third freaking pitch gets picked off. How you down 5-0 and you get picked off? That makes no sense to me. Shout out, like I said, shout out to our guy Josh Nelson, creator of the Sox Machine, in front of the program. Hopefully, we get him back on here soon. And let's just say this: Josh Nelson has some choice words for him, and I'll leave it at that. You could think of those words inside your head. But I put it out on Twitter after the game on Saturday. Kevin Pillar should have his bags packed. You're a veteran that's been in the league for a long time, and you get picked off, and your team is trailing 5-0. They try to, even though whether you think they're going to win the game or not, that's not the point. But why are you getting picked off? You down 5-0 in the ninth inning.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's just flat out dumb.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2024 Chicago White Sox in a nutshell.
Two is in a nutshell as well.
13-year veteran, Mr. Pillar. You would think he of all people would know better, but okay. Oh, and they signed Tommy Pham to a minor league deal. Yeah.
Don't play fantasy sports with him.
Exactly. So, oh gosh. Okay, let's not before Sid goes completely bonkers. And I know Josh will try to get him on. Hopefully, he won't say any swear words, and we do get him. We do get him on. Let's talk about the rest of baseball, Sid.
Okay, just real quick.
Uh-huh.
Going back to yesterday's game, Dominic Fletcher and I forgot who's the other fool that dropped the ball at first base. 2 errors in the 7th inning, which opened the game up for Cincinnati. That was just terrible. I know Nicky Lopez had that drop ball, which was thrown to second base, but 2 errors, Lakina, 2 errors. I put it out on Twitter yesterday. This is just comical. It's a clown show, and you thought what happened on Saturday was bad. Those 2 plays yesterday. Now, Dominic Fletcher, I thought it was a little bit tough, but he overran that ball. That should have been a catch. But we talked about throughout before the season started, Lakina, this team was going to be on pitching and defense. They have a couple of starting pitchers. One of them has been brought up today. We'll talk about in a second. But their defense, at least over the weekend, as far as the season is concerned, but definitely the last 2 games, their defense has been excuse my friend, shitty at best. And that's terrible.
Like I said, I know Crochet's looked really good. I know they just called I forgot who they just called up. But
make a start tonight against Kansas City.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens because Kansas has been playing pretty well lately. I know he'll have his first big test, so I guess things are looking up for. You can look at that, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about the rest of the league here this weekend because personally, because with the Sox are like I tell our buddy Mike Berman, of course, NBC Sports Chicago, the sports anchor there. We gotta get him back on too for the show and 147 more games. I tell him, look, guess who's promotes this, Mike? Yay! Woo! Well, let's talk about some good baseball from over the weekend. Yeah, the Padres got 2 out. Well, they split their series against the Dodgers. And I know Dodgers fans are already freaking out, like, "Oh my God, we lost 2 out of 3." Okay, guys, relax. Look, I mean, you're good. Look, we know these 2 teams always play, well against each other. I know Tatis had that monster home run on I think it was like Friday that kind of brought the game up because they were down 7-0 to the Padres and they were going to come back. And the pitching is really, and I think it's speaking of the bullpen, I think if one thing that you can say, they've got the hitting, they got the starting pitching, it's going to be that middle relief going to that bullpen. That's going to be, if the one thing that keeps the Dodgers from going far, it's the middle relief, and they're going to have to address that at some point.
We said that last year, right, Lakina, about their bullpen. Dave Roberts.
The last 3 years, we say that.
Is to find guys who can get the last 6 to 9 outs of a ball game. It looks like it's going to be the same scenario in a sense this year. I know Evan Phillips is the closer. He took that role last year. He's kind of struggled here and there to start off the year, but we'll see what happens with that. Now, on the flip side for San Diego, as you mentioned, I watched that game on Friday. They were down 7-1. They came back to win. And the Dodgers experienced something again on Saturday like they did a couple weeks ago against, I think it was last week against St. Louis. They had another rain delay, but that didn't matter. It didn't matter for the Dodgers. They won that one on Saturday. But last night, like you mentioned, San Diego, had that big hit with Jurickson Profar with that 3-run RBI double in the 7th inning to break that game open for the Padres. So you mentioned these two teams don't like each other ever since San Diego's been competitive for the last 3 or 4 years, and they're not afraid of the Dodgers now. I do expect the Dodgers to still win this division, but for the San Diego Padres, winning that series at Dodger Stadium is going to give them confidence going forward. Hopefully they can build on that and sustain it.
Well, and isn't that what happened last year? They won like 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers, and we saw what happened after that. So they kind of went back. So yeah, I'll believe it when I see it as far as the Padres are concerned. Now the Cardinals got back on track. They won 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks. I should say they beat the Cardinals 2 out of 3. So they got a nice little bump up there. Going into let's start. Let's go into the Central for a second. The NL Central. They, the Brewers kind of fell back to earth a little bit. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. So, the Orioles looking pretty good so far this season. They're kind of like, getting back going after a little bit of a hiccup last week.
Yeah, congrats to Jackson Holliday, the prospect that Baltimore called up last Thursday against Boston. He got his first career hit yesterday. I know that Milwaukee failed to complete the sweep of Baltimore, but Baltimore, I watched some of that game yesterday after I got home for the Sox game. What a relief. Corbin Burns, the former Brewers pitcher now with Baltimore, he struggled a little bit in the first couple of innings, but he started to pick it up a little bit, but it was the offense, especially Gunnar Henderson, that bailed out Baltimore yesterday. And of course, you have Craig Kimbrough. We were worried about that bullpen last year, looking at, especially after they had a couple of injuries, a couple of their key guys. That was one of the reasons why they lost to Texas in that playoff series last year. But looks like Kimbrough's going to be their closer, and which was a good pickup on the back end of their bullpen. We always talked about with Baltimore having that offensive firepower. We're now with Jackson and Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and Cedric Mullins now being bottom of the lineup, which is still going to create havoc. Don't forget about Anthony Santander as well. So we know that Baltimore can bash it out with the best of them. It's going to be that starting pitcher in particular that can sustain this.
Pittsburgh and Philadelphia split their 4-gamer, so it was kind of like back and forth. The Pirates won on Thursday, the Phillies won Saturday, and I know that the Pirates, they finished that series and got the split yesterday. So interesting, kind of breaking the series for those two teams. The battle of
congratulations to Andrew McCutchen for Pittsburgh, 300th career home run.
Well, the 300's been around that long, Mr. McCutchen. No, glad he's back. Right, I know, right? So nice, nice little by him. Now Atlanta, Spencer Strider's gone for the year. They did beat the Marlins 2 out of 3, but Strider being out, he's going to have elbow surgery, and that throwing elbow, he's gone for the rest of the year. I still say Atlanta has a little bit of control of that division, but with him being gone now, the Phillies can kind of sneak in there. Maybe the Mets, if they can get it together, they can sneak in there too. So I don't think the Braves are going to run away and hide in the NL East.
You may be right only because of the injury to Strider, but Marcell Ozuna stepped up. Hey, he had a great series against the Marlins over the weekend, but he had 4 RBI yesterday, including that 3-run home run in the 9th inning, which there should have been a victory for the Miami Marlins, but Ozuna said no way. He hit the ball out into the left center, and the Braves ended up winning the ball game, taking 2 out of 3 from the Marlins. I think it's safe to say the Marlins will not go back to the playoffs this year. As you mentioned, Atlanta, they're going to have to be carried by their offense for a while until they find that starting pitcher to replace Spencer Strider. They may come at the July 31st trade deadline, but we'll see.
Going into the AL, Texas lose 2 out of 3 to the Astros. They beat the Astros pretty well in their first game, but they lose the last 2. And so now the Angels, our buddy Chris Gilman's Angels, even though they lost they lost a couple of their series, but they're still kind of right there. They're only a half game back. I know we're not talking about like standings right now, but Oakland had a nice weekend. I know, of course, the Mariners, but they're still right in the thick of it. I'm not too worried about them just yet, but despite them losing 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. But, that AL West is going to be a little bit competitive.
Yeah, congratulations to Oakland winning the series at home for the first time this year. I had a chance to watch some of the highlights of that. We talked about that series being a little sneaky good series, and it turned out, at least the last game of that series, we saw some offense from Oakland. and it was very nice to see. You mentioned about the Angels; they dropped 2 out of 3 to Boston. Boston is really a strange team to figure out. I know they lost earlier today on Patriots Day to the Cleveland Indians. I think the first of that 4-game series at Fenway. So Boston has a lot of home games early in April Day, and they need to take advantage of that. But I want to go to Houston for a second. Jose Altuve, I know he's a marked man because of the whole cheating scandal. I think he's the only one remaining from that 2017 World Series team. He had 2 home runs in his first 2 at-bats yesterday. I know the Texas Rangers beat the Astros the first time they played them a couple of weeks ago down in Arlington, but the Astros took advantage of a couple of mistakes from the Rangers yesterday to take this series 2-1 at home.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Rangers. I think look, they've got a great nucleus there, so I'm not too worried about them. They lose 2 out of 3. I mean, that's your rival. You're always going to bring the best out of you, so I'm not too worried about that. Now going to the Central, of course, the Guardians, they did beat the Red Sox on Patriots Day earlier today. I think they probably needed that after they did have not a good showing against the Yankees. They did lose 2 out of 3 to them. So we'll talk about the Yankees in just a second. But Cleveland, I think that was probably the perfect time for that game against that's the game they really need against the Red Sox.
Yeah, that game yesterday for Cleveland, there was a nice comeback. And you have to give those players credit for fighting hard and fighting back. Of course, the Yankees, they were trying to take that series, but they let their foot off the gas, which sometimes that does happen. But the Guardians are one of those sneaky good teams this year. Like we were talking about them coming to year, maybe not. They had a chance to win the AL Central, but of course they lose Shane Bieber for the year. Their starting pitcher. And Jose Ramirez is still there, one of the best young hitters in the game. So, but looks like they're going to have to be carried by their office as well. Don't forget about Tristan McKenzie, rather, their frontline pitcher. Hopefully he can stay healthy because Cleveland has really nobody left in that starting rotation after him, in my opinion. But the Yankees, they're still strong, and their Aaron Judge, he's still hitting the ball out very well, but. Hopefully, with Garrett Cole being out there, Atlanta as far as their starting rotation, Nestor Cortez picked it up in his last start. I know last start yesterday he should have earned the win, but the Yankees blew it. But he's been pitching well his last couple of starts. Don't forget about Marcus Stroman as well, and hopefully Carlos Rodon can build off that momentum, which the last start he had 1 week ago tonight.
Also, too, staying in that AL Central, the Twins and the Tigers, they split their series, 4-game right now. But the Tigers went to keep, to split that series. So very interesting series there between those two teams. The Royals lose a couple, 2 out of 3 to the Mets. So we'll see. I mean, the White Sox do play the Royals host the White Sox. I should say, easy for me to say.
It's on the South Side tonight.
Yeah, South Side. Okay, so I was right the first time. Boy, they've been playing each other a lot this year. So
I know.
the first time they played already this year. Like my goodness, but yeah, should be interesting series there down G rate. Going to the AL East, the Yankees have the best record. They're 12-4, and Baltimore kind of right there. Also the Rays as well. But yeah, the Yankees. I think the key for me, the Yankees is can they keep it up? They win 2 out of 3 against the Guardians, like we said. It's Wanzo still doing his thing, and he's definitely kind of been the glue that kind of kept everybody together. But their pitch is still a little bit of a concern, even though they did have a nice pitching performance. Well, with the exception of yesterday, like you said, they kind of got that game kind of went away from them. But against the Guardians, from the sweep. But so far, you gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a Yankees fan right now.
Yeah, and as long as they can continue to play like this, especially in the tough AL East division, I think they'll be okay. Let's give up props to another team, Lakina. They only gave up 3 runs in their last 2 games, winning the series at home over the weekend over Colorado. That's the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Barrios yesterday, 7 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts. The offense came to light, i.e. Justin Turner yesterday. And also on Saturday, they had a great performance for Dalton Varsho, their backup catcher and outfielder, for RBI in that performance with the 5-3 victory on Saturday. But that shutout victory for the Toronto Blue Jays, I thought it was key yesterday because we said Outside of Kevin Gossman, who also is going to step up in that starting rotation, it was Jose Barrios. He had a great performance yesterday with 7 shutout innings, as I mentioned, with the 7 Ks.
Yeah, nice spot back at losing that first game, 12-4. I mean, that was just not a good performance. So hopefully, look, I mean, a sweep would have been nice if you're the Blue Jays, but look, you were able to kind of bounce back from that and win the rest, the last 2. So that's what you need and that's what you want. Look, it's playing the Rockies. You gotta good to kind of cure for what ails you. So hopefully, they can build on that. They actually do play the Yankees starting tonight, I should say. Yeah, tomorrow, I believe. So yeah, it's gonna be that should be a good series too. But speaking of series, we talked about the Guardians taking that first game, the 4 game against the Red Sox. Other series are starting today. Minnesota and Baltimore. Colorado continues their East Coast trip. They place Philadelphia. San Francisco and Miami, 2 teams that have underachieved this year. Texas and Detroit. The Angels against Tampa Bay. Of course, we talked about the Yankee series. They're in Toronto as they face the Blue Jays. That should be a good one. And you got the Pirates. It's not like I said. They split their series with Philadelphia, and they start their series against the Mets.
And the rest of the schedule for today, San Diego visits Milwaukee. Atlanta will visit Houston. That's the TBS Tuesday night broadcast for tomorrow at 7 o'clock. The MLB broadcast for this series tonight will take place at 7:10 on MLB Network. That's the Clubhouse Showcase game on MLB Network. Tonight's Houston-Atlanta game. Tomorrow's Houston-Atlanta game will air nationally on TBS. The Cubs will face Arizona. St. Louis would pay a trip to Oakland. Cincinnati will visit Seattle. And Washington Nationals, they'll continue their West Coast road trip after losing 2 or 3 out there in the Bay. They'll visit the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think it's safe to say that the Dodgers will be in a foul mood, as you would say.
Oh yeah, so so I feel bad for the Nationals. You're gonna be catching the Dodgers in a very bad mood. So I feel bad for them. So that's your schedule for this week in MLB.
Real quickly, Keena, I know we got a break for the bottom of the hour break, but shout out to Colton Krauser for Baltimore.
Yes.
He hit a home run yesterday to break the game open in a comeback victory over Milwaukee. He has, along with Michael Busch of Chicago's National League Ball Club, has also homered in 4 straight games. And I also wanted to give props to, real quick, if I can find it. Not that story. The Los Angeles Dodgers, real quickly. I think over the weekend there was the 8-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's last game. Yeah. Vanessa Bryant, his widow, she worked with Nike to give she gave the whole Dodgers roster a custom-made blue and white a Nike pair of shoes in honor of Kobe Bryant. I wanted to point that out.
Yes,
and Doc Gooden got honored yesterday before the Mets Royals finale. That's all I wanted to get to.
Yeah. They actually released a statue of him yesterday. It was great to see Darryl Strawberry, his girlfriend, out there too. Of course, he had a heart attack last month. It's good to see him up and out. He looks good, and those two kind of like are synonymous with the Mets and during the 80s and that whole thing. Unfortunately, both have they faced some issues. Doc more recently in recent years, but it looks like he's starting to kind of get it back on track. I know Darryl Strawberry has had his own issues, for years, is helping him out. So it's good. It's good to see them, and that was really cool to see yesterday. That was a nice moment there with the Mets.
Yeah, so congratulations to Doc Gooden and getting his number 16 retired by the Mets organization yesterday.
All right, so we're going to take a really quick break. Of course, we're doing some rapid fire here. Of course, Scottie Scheffler wins the Masters. NHL's wrapping up their regular season. Especially the Old School TV Monday, and so much more coming up. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Chicago. More fun as we wrap things up. Coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Chicago on this wild and fun Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's Lakina over there. I'm Sid the Kid over here. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kim's going in the IG.
We have less than 22 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. So this is our last break for today. So you have any last minute questions or comments, so don't be afraid. You can go into the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, so we got to do some of this stuff rapid fire as we recap the Masters that commenced yesterday. And Scottie Scheffler wins his second green jacket in 3 years. He already has like 3 PGA Tour titles already this year. He's the #1 player in the world right now. And it was just like, it's kind of like very masterful performance by him. It was striking the ball beautifully. We talked about our buddy Chris Gilman, of course, his lovely wife, Miss Christine Macro, KXRB, of course, their analysis. And he was one of those guys where he kind of, it was a little bit tight for a little bit with him and Max Homa and Colin Morikawa and Yuva Ahlberg, a rookie from Sweden. He just, he kind of like that. I think when we got to Amen Corner, he had a early bogey, but once he got to Amen Corner, he had that strike at 9, then got a birdie there, then he got at 11. He was kind of like hard to catch after that.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch at least some of the highlights of the third round from yesterday from Mr. Scottie Scheffler. I think I want to say it was the third hole. Lakina, he had a ball in the sand trap. He had a little trouble, not too much. We had a little trouble in getting a shot out of that, but eventually he got out of there. and he was able to roll, like you said, especially within those last 3 holes of that final round yesterday. So he was able to take control of that. But just I'm just saying, this is just for me personally, just being a casual golf watcher. I would like to call me crazy. I know this is a crazy scenario, okay, but I'd rather shoot out of a sand trap, which is not that deep for what Scheffler did yesterday, and to have your ball hitting the water and then you taking that L, if you know what I mean. And I think he had another shot too. I forgot which hole it was that went to the crowd, but he was able to get the ball out of the crowd and shoot from that area.
Yeah,
I forgot which hole that was. So I know it came after the third hole from yesterday's final round.
Yeah, that sand trap you're talking about, that was like in the 7th, and I think he got a bogey there. And of course, it was at 9. He kind of had, like I said, he had that strike, and he was able to kind of took control kind of after that, especially after also that birdie at 11. So, he kind of, very, very unflappable. You saw that when he was, when he won it a couple of years ago, he didn't have he has the beard now. He kind of had that baby face going on. Like I said, he's probably one of the top players on tour right now, and to kind of be a little bit shady. They did show a lot of the live golf guys, so it is what it is with that. But look, I mean, he's gonna be a dad soon. His wife Meredith was at home, because she's due any second. So he already said that he wasn't gonna he's gonna leave. But we know that that's more important to him. But he doesn't drink. He's very religious. So I know some people say he's not really the most remarkable guy, but look, you can't. You can't vote for him for his play lately, especially this year. So you kind of you got to give him his props there.
Yeah, like I said, a person who's comfortable in their own skin, you had to give him nothing but respect for it. I did see a statistic yesterday, Lakina, that you really shouldn't be shocked by, but you know me, I've been rooting for Tiger. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think he'll win another major, because you really cannot count that guy out. Although we talked about it with Christine and Chris last Friday, that he looks a whole lot better than he did last year when he had to go through that rainstorm like everybody else. But I saw a stat that this was his worst final round ever with a plus 16 in the last, I believe it was 72 holes, I believe. I was like, I've never seen this. I know Father Time is undefeated, but that sounds like a person that's just starting out playing golf, and that's their quote-unquote best ever. That's just at a beginner's level.
Well, and the thing is, if you saw him walk, I mean, you could tell his back was bothering him, and his knee and his ankles, and you kind of saw that. Neil Shipley, who was the lowest amateur, he played with Tiger. You can kind of you saw Tiger sitting there. Charlie, he's becoming a great young golfer in his own right. He's striking the ball like his dad did way back in the day at his peak. So you kind of saw that, and I think Tiger knows that you don't want to say it's over with for him, because we saw what happened with Jack Nicklaus, back at 86. 86, you'll win at 46. So you don't want to, especially after what happened 5 years ago, you definitely want to count him out then. But let me just see what he does the rest of it. You got the Tour Championship, PJ Tour Championship coming up in about a month. Yeah, in May. So that's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. I think they're playing down in Louisville, in Valhalla, if I'm not mistaken. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. That, of course, I'm sure he's gonna want to play in the U.S. Open and the Open Championship as well. I think it's at St. Andrews this year back there. So we'll be interested to see what Tiger does. But yeah. I mean, he's 48 now, so you kind of wonder, like, oh God, is he starting to kind of wear and tear, so to kind of take over a little bit.
Like I said, this is just my guess. I think he'll skip that next tournament, like you said, that's coming up in May. He'll probably get ready for the U.S. Open, because they'll give him more time to heal. And like you say, he's not a spring chicken like he was 25 years ago. But I think just to preserve any further injuries, to preserve his energy, I think he'll skip that next tournament and get ready for the U.S. Open if he really wants to go play hard in it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Now, I want to give a couple of shouts on the Masters side for a second there. Of course, Scottie Scheffler gets a $3.6 million. That's actually even about $1 million more than he won when he won it 2 years ago. So go figure with that. Got a nice little payday there. But I also give shout to Ludwig Ahlberg, who's, of course, he finished second. Sweet. He's only 23 years old. He actually played on the Ryder Cup squad last year. So you can kind of tell that the nerves kind of got to him a little bit, but he was able to hang on and finish second by himself. Got a nice little $2.2 million there for winning in second. Tommy Fleetwood, another top 10 finish for him at the Masters. Max Homa, I think that some of the holes has got away from him. He had that tough shot at 12, and I think that kind of, and he killed it there. Kyle Morikawa, who played with Scheffler. Unfortunately, had there were like 2 shots at the last for 3 is the 3 hole. I think it's like 9 and 11. Of course, ironically, Scheffler hit birdie. His both 2 of his second shots hit the water, so he had 2 double bogeys. That's not good. And to his credit, he said it with Amanda Balianis after that words. He said, "Look, he sucked." He said he wet the bed basically. So to his credit, I mean, like the one thing you'll say about him, he's very honest. So that was very good honesty there. Also outside the golf range, you got Vernon Lundquist. That was his last Masters after 40 years. And I think he's basically retired from CBS too. I know he already stopped doing college hoops and college football as well. So just a great career. And you saw Tiger was actually talking to him at 16, for the last time in the final round yesterday. That was actually really cool to see. And Jim Nance did a really nice showing as well. So I want to give those shout outs to those guys out there.
Yes, I was going to bring up the Vernon Lundquist tribute. He's kind of the new age, late great Pat Summerall. Because remember, Pat Summerall not only did NFL football, but he did tennis and he did golf for CBS back in the 80s and early 90s. So Vernon Lundquist, job well done. I still remember him doing NBA for CBS and, of course, for Turner. Remember he used to lead voice in the NBA Live 98 video game?
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
I still have that somewhere, even though I don't have the PS1 anymore. But it was him and Doc Rivers during that time. They were the #1 team for TNT for those 2 or 3 years before Doc decided to go back into coaching. But neither here or there. But congratulations on Vernon Lundquist, a heck of a career, a Hall of Fame career indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the list is second seeds. Well, congrats, Scottie Scheffler, of course, the second Masters in 3 years. Of course, I'm sure he's going to be. I'm sure. I don't know if his wife has had their baby yet, but I'm sure within the next week and a half, probably before week's over, they'll probably be new parents. So congrats to them as well, and also all the participants in the Masters. So it was actually a great tournament as usual. This is Second Seed Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. So let's do that hockey for a second, Sid, as they're. As the NHL is they're finishing up their season, and a new star for the Hawks. I mean, not Bedard, but one guy got his first career goal and his first shot, no less.
Frank Nazar, how bizarre. Sorry, Frank Nazar, the latest first round pick from a couple years ago for the Blackhawks, made his debut yesterday in a 4-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. He scored his first goal in the 3-2 fast break. It looked like it was a long break from yours truly, but he went for almost end to end, taking it from center ice and scored his first goal in his first shift of the game. And the crowd went wild. The United Center, as we said before, Lakina, Connor Bedard, even though he missed almost a month, he missed a little bit over a month of his rookie year this year. You can see the potential in that young man. As we said before, we'll say it again, just had better talent around him. And I think the Hawks will be back as far as playoff contention is concerned. Frank Nazar is one of those young guys that's starting to that's been in the system for the last year or so. And he's even though the Hawks have 2 regular season games left, you're going to start to see guys like him come up within the next year, starting next season or so. And you're starting to see slowly the talent that should be built around Connor Bedard. Now, I think if Frank Nazar should continue to progress, he'll probably be that second star next to Connor Bedard, probably around this time next year, and once he gets a full year under his belt in the NHL.
Yeah, that was a great shot by him yesterday, and I saw that it was almost end-to-end, like you said. So that was his first shot, your first goal. That's actually one of the better goalies in the league. So that was I think he'll definitely have that on his belt. Even though, of course, unfortunately, Hurricanes ended up winning that game. So the playoffs are pretty much set for the most part on the Western Conference. I mean, it's really basically seeding at this point. Now, as the East is concerned, still a lot to be decided these last couple of games. So I think the Islanders, they lost a tough one yesterday. I know the Capitals are still in it, and I believe the Red Wings are still in it as well over at the East. Getting those last wild card spots. So could be interesting these last couple of games.
Yeah, as we talked about throughout various points of the season, both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference playoffs should be fun this year. Here's the thing, Lakina. I want to get your thoughts on this first. Do you think there's just one standard barrier in the Western Conference? I know people want to count Colorado out, but I still think they have another run in them. Dallas has been up there all year. Winnipeg, They struggled a little bit early, but they're back on top. The LA Kings, after a coaching change, they're in the playoffs, but I think they'll have to face Edmonton again. But I think this is the third year in a row, and so we'll see what happens with that. Vancouver, they came out of nowhere this year, so I'm not going to say Vancouver could lose in the first round. I think they could, but I still think that it's up for grabs in the Western Conference. Like you said, Dallas, this should be the year for them, but I'm not convinced that it is. That should be me based on recent history.
I think the Western Conference is pretty much wide open. I think you can kind of make a case for all the teams you mentioned. I think, the Kings could say, well, wait a second, I know it's been a while for us, but we're still in it. The Predators are still very good. So it's really going to depend on who matches with whom. And I think in the Western Conference, it's kind of like very wide open. You could probably put like all 8 of those teams in a hat. And if you pull out one, you can kind of make a case for that team, going to the Stanley Cup final. It's going to be that's going to be really going to be the gauntlet here. Now, as far as the East concerned, I'm not one of those folks that's going to give it to the Rangers or the Bruins just yet. I think the Panthers still look. It wasn't that long ago, so they're still in it. Toronto. I mean, I just want a Canadian team to actually be in the final. It's been a few years.
You and Gary them both,
right? So, but Carolina, look, I love that Carolina squad. That team, Brandon Morris his guys playing very well. It's really gonna depend on who the other teams that end up making it in the playoffs. So I think the East is, I don't want to say it's the Brewers and the Rangers and everyone else, but it's kind of looking that way so far. And look, the Rangers, you saw with Mark Messier, of course, he does ESPN, does stuff at ESPN now. You saw like it's been 30 years since that Stanley Cup, and I know the Rangers have been hungry for something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we'll talk about it within the next week or two once the playoffs start there, because it gets really interesting.
Yeah, it starts this Saturday, the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I know the regular season ends on Thursday. So we'll see what happens with that. Lakina, real quick, as far as the hockey, the Eastern Conference, I still say watch out for Florida. I know they lost to Vegas last year in the Stanley Cup final, but I still think they'll have something to say about it. In Vegas, I know they were one of the last teams to get in. I know they clinched their spot, but I would not ignore them either. They've been there before. They're the defending Stanley Cup champs. They're going to have to have another long run in there, but I think they're going to have something to say in the Pac Western Conference as well.
Boy, gonna be a lot to say. So, like said, it starts on Saturday. We'll try to talk a little bit about that before our roundtable. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting, especially that Western Conference side in the playoffs. As like I say, sports on Sports Chicago, Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Real quick, some sports media news. Sid, ESPN Films announced over the weekend that they are going to be doing a 30 for 30 documentary on the life of the late great ESPN Sports Center anchor Stuart Scott. That's currently in production right now. And Andre Gaines will direct this doc. It doesn't have a title yet, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure you got to think Rich Eisen and Scott Van Pelt. You got to think those guys are going to be in it. I know his daughter. I think his daughter is going to be one of the producers of the film. So that should be a good, going to be very interesting there. So yeah, it's going to premiere later this year.
Yeah, I read that press release over the weekend. I know it was released after we went off the air last Friday, and it's been long overdue. I believe it's been this is 2024. He died in 2015, correct? So it's been 9 years. So 9 years since he's passed. So I remember when I had a first chance to watch him when I was a teenager, trying to sneak into my mother's living room to watch him, those 10 p.m. sports centers, and I was quote unquote free to watch him at my own risk when I got to college. So he brought that hip hop black culture flavor to the airways. And there's a group of people like yours, Shirley. We were teenagers and college age kids at that time that liked it, and there was a lot of people of all lines that didn't like it either. So he was the first one to do that, to break that mold at ESPN. Remember, Ariel's tried to do it. Some people got away with it. Others that tried it, it wasn't for them, so they had to go sit their butts down somewhere. But Stuart Scott was born and raised here in Chicago. Hopefully they will get into his background, because he always gave Chicago love it whenever he won awards or told stories, and always interviewed Michael Jordan. He's like, I'm from Chicago, so show me some love. But Hopefully they do justice. Like you said, both of his daughters, I'm sure they're heavily involved in this. So give him justice. Not only tell the good, but tell the bad too. Because call me crazy, Lakina. Even though we may have liked it from what we look like, there's a whole lot of folks that people that looked like us that didn't like it either. It was more of a generational thing as well.
Right. I know there was some older African Americans that weren't too crazy about it. I loved it. I thought, look, it's different, and I think that was something that was needed, for that to kind of break the mold, if you will, if you want to use that term. So yeah, it should be interesting. Like I said, I think it's going to air like right before the ESPYs, I believe. So it was like later this summer. So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna release it. They'll date at some point. But yeah, it's just going to be. It's not titled yet. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, coming up later this year. ESPN 30 for 30 on Stuart Scott.
Yes. All right, Lakina, any other sports media news that caught your eye over the weekend?
Like I said, just to see what's going to happen with the Blackhawks and the Bulls. With NBC Sports Chicago, we'll see. I know Jeff Agris, who does a great job with the Sun Times. We'll see if I'm sure he's going to be on the case, these next couple of months. I'm sure he's going to have his eyes and ears plugged in to see if what's going to happen with those two teams, especially. With that, I know the White Sox too. They're going to be part of this deal as well. So I'm going to see what happens with this, with where they're going to be televising their games next season starting.
And like I said, we'll keep our eye on that. There was one piece of news I saw over the weekend. I did not watch this show, but Charles Barkley, who's actually on social media, by the way, via Instagram, he's an interesting follow there. But him and Gail King had a political show on CNN that aired every week. Now it's been canceled. Did you get a chance to watch it? If so, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I saw a little bit of on YouTube. I think it was definitely one of those things where it was definitely an acquired taste, I think, for some folks. So if you weren't into it, you weren't going to be into it. So it is what it is with that. I mean, I'm not surprised that it got the boot. I mean, some people just shouldn't do certain topics. I know, I think Stephen A. Smith, he did something here about what happened here in Chicago. I won't get deeper into it, but it was just kind of stupid and dumb. But that's a whole different situation. They're not going to get really delve into that. But I know some people want to kind of go outside the sports and whatever, but sometimes you just got to pick your battles and pick your lane. So yeah, that I'm not surprised I got the boot.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. Lakina here with you, wrapping up this Monday edition. And let's go into Old School TV Monday, and we'll have a further discussion since we have a little bit of time left. And today's Salute to Old School TV Monday is a 2022 documentary that was produced by Fox Sports from a couple years ago called Jackie Robinson, Get to the Bag. I don't know if you got a chance to see this, Lakina. It was executive produced by Mookie Betts of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Skylo, the hip hop artist from Brooklyn, did the rap throughout this documentary. It basically told the story of how Jackie Robinson became an entrepreneur. Of course, they covered his playing career with the Brooklyn Dodgers from 47 to 56. Of course, Jackie Robinson was the president of the chocolate factory. It was a coffee shop around New York City. It's kind of like what Starbucks is today. And then, of course, he opened up a bank. It was called Freedom National Bank, which unfortunately closed in 1990. Of course, we all know what his now widow, Miss Rachel Robinson, has done not only for the community but for his foundation. Of course, Jackie Robinson passed away in 1972. Of course, today is Jackie Robinson Day around Major League Baseball. You're going to see all the players from all 30 teams wearing number 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson today. Lakina, first of all, I'll address the documentary first. Of course, it featured Magic Johnson, Alex Rodriguez, of course, old clips from Jackie Robinson's interviewing when he was playing. Of course, Lately, Ilazea Shabazz, the daughter of Malcolm X, of course, former WNBA player Candace Wiggins was in the documentary as well. They all talked about, most importantly, the impact that Jackie Robinson made off the field with his entrepreneurialism. He got involved with the civil rights movement. He was involved with the Richard Nixon presidential campaign back in 1960, and of course, again in early 1972 before he passed in October later that year. I'll be honest, Lakina, I didn't know. I knew that I heard in passing that he opened up a bank, but I didn't know that he had a coffee shop that he made money off of it as well. And that was his first job that he got after he retired, after no one in Major League Baseball will offer him a job as far as front office or managerial position.
Yeah, because at the time, of course, they weren't hiring a lot of course, folks of color, even in the early, like late 60s, early 70s. So, you had to kind of like make your own. And so I do remember, I watched clips of that documentary. I remember what you're talking about because it kind of came in, like you said, a couple years ago. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like seeing all of these amazing just some of the really good cool things that kind of like transpire. You saw how he was off the field with with his entrepreneurship and everything else. I mean, of course, we know the story of how he broke the color barrier and the nerves and some of the threats, of course, that he got. But to their credit, the Dodgers credit, the Brooklyn Dodgers credit, they were able to kind of get it going there. He couldn't stay at the same hotels as his teammates, and it was just unfortunate that that was the case there. But it's interesting because with I think the whole thing about blacks in baseball, I think at the time, of course, with the Negro Leagues, and once they finally started letting those guys in after, of course, Jackie Robinson, broke that. That kind of helped, with all the rest of it. So everything else kind of fell into place there. So it's interesting because there isn't a lot of black participation in baseball anymore. I think at the time, like around when Mr. Robinson passed, it was about 30-40%. Now it's down to like 8 or 9. And I know there are multiple reasons for this. It's going to be a little hard to get into. We'll probably delve into it a little bit, but not too much. But I think that the documentary already kind of showed how much of that has kind of like declined in the last few years. It's just unfortunate.
And then this documentary called "Get to the Bag," you can watch it. Watch the whole 45-minute episode on YouTube. Just type in Jackie Robinson "Get to the Bag." It was produced by Fox Sports a couple years ago. You can watch the whole 45-minute film on YouTube. It's very good, so check it out. But they also in that documentary featured a baseball coach that he's coaching his travel league baseball team that plays in Brooklyn, and many of those young folks knew the history of Jackie Robinson, but they didn't know some of the stuff he did off the field. So he was kind of teaching them. They was like, "Oh, okay," and they were starting to I get the impact that he had on what he did when he was alive. Impact not only just on the black community, but everywhere. And the RBI program still exists, which of course is a program funded by Major League Baseball to get urban kids all across the country in the major league cities to participate and get into baseball. Of course, we can dive into a deeper topic to this at a later time, Lakina, but we know us growing up, especially here in Chicago, remember in the black community, especially boxing and baseball was popular, of course, when you had Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, of course, here in Chicago, Michael Jordan making basketball in the NBA what it was. Everybody wanted to play basketball and baseball, even though you still had numbers high in the black with black American players participating in baseball during the time we were growing up. The basketball is the number one sport. Not to blame everything on Michael Jordan, but everybody wanted to play baseball, and baseball slowly kind of went into the backside. So now you mentioned that 8 or 9%. You brought this up when we talked about celebrating the 50th anniversary of Henry Aaron's 715th career home run, which he broke last week. The anniversary was last week. We talked about that. You brought up, he said, Henry Aaron was alive today, he would not be proud of having 8 or 9% of participation of black American players in baseball. I know that Jackie Robinson would echo those same sentiments today if he was still alive.
Yeah, and I think about Torrey Hunter. I think some of his comment, he did something where I think it's a deeper issue. I know some people say that it's because a lot of these scouts don't want to go to these urban communities, and yeah, that's true. But I think, like you just said, I mean, because of basketball and also football too, for that matter, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's easier to get to play the pros or you go to the college ranks, but baseball you got to go through the farm system, and if you're lucky to get there, you got to be really good. So I think it's kind of a deeper discussion into it. You saw some of these HBCU schools, not all of them, but because I know Southern, most of their players are African American. I think some of the others they've got Caucasian players. They got Latino players. A lot of them are having trouble filling out their roster, so they had to open up their scholarships to Caucasians and Latinos. So that's another reason why you're seeing such a big decline in the participation in baseball among African Americans. So it's such a deeper discussion, and we're not going to have time to get into it, but there is multiple reasons why this is happening. I think it needs to be addressed a little bit more.
Yeah, and also too, just to wrap up, also in this documentary, our current players, Tim Anderson, when this was filmed, he was still with the White Sox, and now with the Miami Marlins. Also, too, Mookie Betts, as I mentioned, with the Dodgers, he was the only black player, black American player in that 2020 World Series when they beat Tampa Bay in the bubble in Texas. He was the only black American player in the World Series. Of course, Byron Buxton was also in that documentary. He still plays for the Minnesota Twins. So, and I think between the Chicago teams, Lakina, if there's I should know this, but I don't think we have a black American player.
There aren't any.
If so, please correct me. I don't think we have a black American player. The only person I know, and that's on the cousin. He's the third base head coach, former White Sox player, now third base coach of the cousin. That's Willie Harris.
Willie Harris, yeah, he's the only one, and I'll say he's not the non-player. Like I said, Chris Morel's from the Dominican Republic.
Yep.
Yep. So you can't rule. Yeah. So I mean, they don't have any here in Chicago, and I don't think, like I said, I think it's a deeper kind of, like I said, it goes deeper into kind of like the ceramics and the synopsis of it. So, like I said, it's not gonna happen overnight. I think there needs to be a kind of deeper dive into like why is why a lot of that stuff. I know Curtis Grant, of course, he has at UIC has a field name after him. Torrey Hunter and some of the other black players, CeCe Sabathia, who I'm sure will probably end up being in the Hall of Fame. We'll get a call from the Hall of Fame next year, first ballot. But I'm sure if you ask them, I'm sure they're not very happy with what's going on right now with the lack of participation of black kids in baseball. So I wish I wish we had time for it, but I'm sure we'll probably deeper dive into it maybe at some point. But there's like so many. I know that JRW, like I said, like they were like about 30 or 40% now, so like 8 or 9. I mean, it's not good.
And just one minor complaint, Lakina, like I mentioned at the top, all players from 30 teams will wear number 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson today. I also want to bring this up, I think last year, a couple of years ago. Can you pick just one person to wear number 42 and everybody else wear their regular number and just have the number 42 on their pouch? Don't make it simple, but tonight everybody's going to be wearing 42 unless you really follow your teams closely. You're not going to know who these players are. I'm just saying.
I mean, they've been doing it for like the last 6 or 7 years since they've just started doing this. So, I know it's kind of weird that you're seeing everybody is wearing. You're seeing it is kind of a little bit weird seeing Craig Counsell wear 42. That is a little bit odd, but it is what it is. I mean, I think it is kind of weird that they do. I think it's kind of still it's kind of like a promotion thing too. I think they're going to be selling these jerseys from each of the teams, so it's kind of like, I know UCLA, of course, he played football as well as Jackie Robinson did over at UCLA as well. Was a basketball player, I believe, as well, played there.
The track star.
Yep. So because I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Willie as well. So I think he said he saw him play. I think he helped recruit him. So that's gonna be that's kind of a little interesting tidbit there as well. So there's a lot of things that we didn't know about Jackie Robinson, but I don't think he'd be happy with all that's going on right now. But we'll be just see what happens with that. What's up, Brandon? How are you?
Yeah, shout out to Brandon. Yeah, hope you're doing well, my friend. Nice to see you back in the chat again. So, on this Jackie Robinson day, of course, I'm wearing my white Jackie Robinson jersey, throwback jersey. For this old school TV Monday on MLB's version of Jackie Robinson Day, we salute the Fox Sports 2022 documentary, Jackie Robinson Get to the Bag, executive produced by Mookie Betts of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Lakina, close us out.
Yeah, it is on YouTube, though, so if you haven't watched it yet, you can check it out on YouTube. It's right there. You get the full episode, the full documentary. Oh, it's only 45 minutes, so it goes by pretty quick. It's pretty fast-paced. On that note, you can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's coming in the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live and they live in color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Okay, so Brendan wants to know that what was the name of the documentary that you were saying earlier that's on YouTube?
Jackie Robinson, Get to the Bag. B-A-G.
Yeah, there you go. Just type it up on YouTube. It's right there, Brendan, and everybody else was
Sports. Yes.
Of course, you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more time, Second City Sports every Monday and Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And you can catch us live and live in color 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Roku TV.
All right, of course, you can type in Sports Zone Chicago, wherever app on your Play Store. Sports Zone Chicago, you can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellows, of course, What's Up Cuz as well. So it's all right there for you to get it anytime, anywhere.
Yes, and we will provide.
And of course, on Friday, we'll have I think Sid said it out earlier, but we're going to have our NBA preview with our illustrious panel. We're not going to tell you who they are. Yeah, we're not going to tell you who they are just yet. You got to tune in to find out who they are. But
That'll be the second hour of our show on Friday.
Yes, a little teaser there for you guys. But even still, enjoy the play-in. Hopefully, the Bulls can actually at least win the I guess Atlanta and perhaps whoever loses that game. Of course, enjoy the rest of the NHL regular season as well as they're finishing up the last couple games there, and a whole lot more. Of course, the baseball as well. For Sid, I'm the Kansas Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Holla!